Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, January 10th, 2025. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining with us and tuning in again this week. Now, we are off to one heck of a start for the new year. The last month, as a matter of fact, has truly been a whirlwind, particularly this past week. The only way I can describe it is just that it's been simply surreal. Now, if you have been following along over the past few weeks, whether it's our updates or on our social media or our website or our hotline, hopefully by now you know that this past Sunday, President Joe Biden signed H.R. 82, the Social Security Fairness Act, into law. Weapon GPO are no more. They have been fully repealed. This is a tremendous victory for nearly 3 million retirees across the country who have had their Social Security benefits either reduced by the windfall elimination provision or reduced and even in some cases completely eliminated by the government pension offset. And if you are one of the folks that I'm talking about, congratulations. This has finally been resolved in your favor. Now, the retroactive date for this change will be January 1st of 2024, so a year ago. That's when things are going to go back to. I'll get to some of the implementation issues in just a moment, but I just want to say just how relieved we are here at Mass Retirees. Those of you who have been members of our association for a while, you know that this issue has been amongst the absolute top priorities of our association, going all the way back to when these laws were first created in 1983 as part of the Social Security Reform Act. They were signed into law by President Ronald Reagan on April 20th of 1983. So we are nearly 42 years after that when this has finally been repealed. And it's been a long time coming. I've personally now been involved in this issue for 30 years. I started here in 1994, December of 94, and here we are now a little bit more than 30 years later. It's finally been resolved. Now, just yesterday on our Facebook page, and by the way, if you're a Facebook user, please go to the Mass Retirees Facebook page, like and follow the page. That way you will get notifications of when we post updates. And we're going to have a lot of updates on a bunch of different issues in the coming months, and that is a great way that we can make sure that all of you are staying engaged and informed and you know exactly what's going on. And you can also ask questions through it as well, because we do try to monitor the page and ask or answer as many questions as we can. Now, at the same time, we know that there are a number of you either watching this video or who receive our weekly email updates that are sent to all of our members every Friday morning who are not social media users, and that's okay. We're going to get information to you through other means, whether it's the weekly email blast, whether it's our toll-free hotline, our in-person area meetings, or our newsletter that we publish 4 times a year. We're going to get information to you as many ways as we can. Now, as I started to say, yesterday we posted on Facebook, as part of the tradition of Throwback Thursday, the original newsletter cover and article from May of 1983, written by Bill Reary, our general counsel, explaining what was in the 1983 reform law. And again, this was just weeks after that was signed into law. We were amongst the first organizations anywhere in the country to highlight the fact that this was going to be a very, very bad deal for public retirees. Now, little did Bill and Ralph White, our founder and former president, know at that time, but it would take over 41 years to correct that significant error, which was very unfair, very unjust, and has done undue financial harm now to more than a generation or two of retirees. That's why we're so grateful after all this time and all this effort that this finally came to fruition. Now, I was very honored and privileged to have had the opportunity to represent our association and all of you at the White House for the signing ceremony, and it is certainly one of the highlights of my life to have participated in that. And again, it was simply surreal. It was also a tremendous honor to be able to meet and speak with President Biden, express our deep gratitude for his support of this bill, and being able to sort of cap things off and just have that as icing on the cake, that this is finally done. But to be in that room and be able to watch him sign that historic bill into law, and knowing just how much it means to all of you, was simply amazing. Now, in terms of just how amazing it has been, I want to thank all of you on behalf of everyone here at Mass Retirees, to those of you who have took the time to either call or write or email over the past few weeks, expressing your gratitude and just how important all of this is to you. It has been incredibly humbling, to say the least, to hear from you and learn about your story and just how important all of what we have done here collectively across the country means to our members. So thank you for taking the time to reach out. I know all of us here, myself included, have been trying the best we can to get back to people and reply and return phone calls. If you haven't heard back from me, I apologize. It's just been an overwhelming amount of calls and emails and so forth coming in. And I'll get back to as many of you as I possibly can. But I have listened to and read every single message that you've sent in, just like everyone else here has. And I am deeply grateful for your well wishes and your kind words. Thank you so much. And again, it has been incredibly humbling to hear from all of you. Now, there's a lot of thanks to go around, and there are more people to possibly thank than we ever can. But there have been some folks who have been critical to this work. Now, from time to time, you've seen us credit different organizations or individuals. These are the folks who have been working directly with us over the years. You've heard me talk a lot about my friend Tim Lee, and in fact, if you watched last week's message from the White House, Tim appeared in the message with me. And I was delighted that Tim and I could share in that moment, because the two of us and our two organizations, and of course Tim represents the Retired Texas Teachers Association, he and I have been working together on this issue for almost 20 years. So the fact that we could share in that moment and walk into the White House together was really special for both of us, and we've become very good personal friends. So again, that was just sort of icing on the cake to have that moment. But here in Massachusetts, the Professional Firefighters Association, the Mass Cop, these are two organizations that just recently went to Washington, D.C. with us. I walked the halls of the U.S. Senate with John Nelson from Mass Cop, who's a member of our association. Paul Jakes from the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts was also with us, along with Tim Lee. We were there together, knocking on doors, talking to senators. We focused on the Republicans that day to make sure that we weren't going to lose those 13 absolutely critical Republican votes, because at that stage of the game, we didn't know where this was going to go. And as a matter of fact, until the evening of December 20th, we were not sure that this law was going to be acted on by the Senate. It was touch and go for a number of days. For 1 minute, we'd think it was a done deal, and the next minute, we'd think it was dead. But until about dinner time on the 20th, we were not certain. And our deepest fear here at Mass Retiree is that we were going to have to deliver bad news to all of you right before the holidays. Thank God we did not have to do that. Senator Schumer came through. The Republican support for H.R. 82 not only held, but it was expanded. And we have to credit President-elect Trump with supporting H.R. 82 in helping us to hold the line in terms of Republican support, which also prevented, by the way, the Republican leadership in the Senate, who remained opposed to H.R. 82 right through the final vote. It prevented them from using any type of parliamentary maneuvering to kill the bill. Because as we found out, there's a lot of things in the Senate, as well as in the House, but particularly in the Senate, different levers that can be pulled to derail legislation and slow it down. And had they done that, we would be having a very different conversation today. But in addition to the organizations that we have thanked, at the White House last Sunday were also several other Massachusetts organizations, public employee unions to be direct. The AFSCME, Council 93 was present. The AFT Massachusetts, the American Federation of Teachers, the Massachusetts chapter was present. the Mass Teachers Association was present. Now, I know that Council 93, they were present back in, I think, 1995 was the first time I went to Washington on this issue. And the AFSCME national chapter were one of the organizing organizations back then, along with the National Association of Retired Federal Employees, NARF, who pulled that particular meeting together. So AFSCME has been right with this from the go. And I know in particular Council 93 in recent years has been doing a lot of work behind the scenes with their members and urging our congressional delegation here in Massachusetts to make sure that this issue is a top priority. Now, in terms of AFT Massachusetts, the Boston Teachers Union, which is a key part of AFT, actually had Frank Valeri and myself, I think it was in 2017, 2018, somewhere around there, we hand-delivered on behalf of the BTU a letter to then House Ways and Means Chairman Kevin Brady, the Republican from Texas. That letter was urging Congressman Brady at that time to find a way, to find a compromise, and working with Congressman Neal from here in Massachusetts to find a path forward for some type of compromise when it comes to weapon GPO. So over the years, virtually every single organization here in Massachusetts on the public sector side of things, right from the AFL-CIO all the way down, have done everything in their power to help move this forward. Now, us representing retirees, this has always been a very top priority, as it should be. But we could not do this alone. No organization, regardless of at the state or local level or federal level, could have done something so monumentous by themselves. So we are very thankful for the support that we have received across the spectrum. But in particular, I want to single out those of you who have taken the time, made the effort to call, email, write a letter, show up at an event with your local member of Congress or your U.S. senators to urge them to support and act on repealing weapon GPO. Your activity over the years, your perseverance over the years, and I know how frustrating this has been, I know how angry you have been over the years, and rightfully so, but your direct involvement at the end of the day is what made the biggest difference. It's one thing for folks like myself, and John and Paul and all of the other labor leaders we work with to go to Washington and meet with folks, but if those elected officials are not hearing directly from all of you, my arguments are going to fall short. So when I go and talk to Catherine Clark or Richie Neal or Ed Markey, Elizabeth Warren, the first thing they say is everywhere I go in Massachusetts, every time I turn around in Massachusetts, all I hear about is weapon GPO. That's because of the work that all of you have done. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so very much. Now, one of the things I enjoyed most about being at the White House, beyond meeting the president and all of that stuff, was the fact that I got to meet Pam Alexandrov in person. Pam has been the leader of the National Coalition to Repeal Weapon GPO. She's a volunteer. She has been the sort of the public face of that organization for the past 4 or 5 years. They have grown to over 50,000 members on Facebook. And I know a lot of you have joined that group, along with retirees from throughout the entire country. The work that has been done at the grassroots level by folks like Pam and everyone else that's been involved in this effort. I know that Chuck Solomon from here in Massachusetts, retired correction officer and a very loyal member of Mass Retirees, has been right there as a key member of that organization, providing us with a lot of information throughout this whole battle. But it's the work of individual retirees like Chuck, like Pam, like all of you who have truly made the difference. Now, a lot of you are asking, and my own father said, congratulations, Sean, what's next? What are you going to do next? Now, we're joking here at the association over the past few days and kind of channeling the voice of our founder and president, Ralph White, who unfortunately passed away about a year ago in January of 2024. Now, Ralph was and always will be a decorated combat Marine from the Korean War. And as much as Ralph would have enjoyed this win and this significant victory on behalf of his members, the first thing he would have told all of us is, okay, get on. We have the next battle to fight. We have the next battle to win. Yesterday is great. but we have to focus on what's coming tomorrow. And our focus going forward, just to give you a couple of two quick things that are of immediate focus for us. One is the Special Commission on the COLA, which is up and running right now. This was initiated by our association last year, and Governor Healy put it in her budget recommendation. The House and Senate agreed. That commission got up and running finally in December. The focus of the COLA Commission is improving the cost of living adjustment for public retirees, starting with the state and teacher system, who have had the same COLA base now since 2012, and it is long overdue for that COLA base to be increased. So in addition to making recommendations on how to increase the base and at what level the base should be increased, one of the key focuses is also how to pay for it and how to restructure our pension funding schedules to some degree to be able to accommodate new benefits. And an increased COLA base is a new benefit, is a new cost. And the cost to these benefits is really the largest hurdle. So that's the primary focus of the COLA Commission. In addition, the Commission will also be developing recommendations around either what we call a senior or enhanced COLA that would be paid to career public employees who have been retired for, say, 15 or 20 years, who have really fallen behind due to inflation. The enhanced or senior COLA is a way to catch people up to some degree. Now, unfortunately, it's never going to go as far as we would like it to, but these will be steps in the right direction. Now, while the primary focus is at the state level and the teacher level, the work that's being done by the Commission will also apply to local retirement systems as well. Now, when it comes to the COLA base, local systems set their own COLA base with the approval of the local legislative body. But just like the problem we have at the state level in terms of cost, that same problem exists at the local level as well. When our local boards go to their local city council or the mayor or town meeting, local finance committee, the first question everyone asks is, what's the cost and how are we going to pay for it? So the recommendations that come out of the Commission in terms of the funding schedule adjustments and different funding mechanisms, those standards can be applied at the local level as well, which will really enhance the ability of our local retirement boards, and there's 102 local retirement boards throughout Massachusetts, to allow them better flexibility to pay for and structure these payments going forward. Now, at the same time, we're going to be playing defense along with a little bit of offense when it comes to health care. If you've been following our reports over the last several months, really over the past 2 years, you know that our association, along with a lot of other folks here in Massachusetts, are growing increasingly concerned about the cost of health care, particularly when it comes to affordability. We can have the best medical systems, the best hospitals, the best doctors, the best health plans anywhere in the world, but if you can't afford to use it, to utilize that care, it's worthless. And that's the problem that we are starting to run into here, where more and more of our members and people out in the general population in general are finding it more and more difficult to afford to get their prescriptions filled, to go to see the doctor, to pay that co-payment, to pay the deductible. It is a true crisis. Now, next week on Thursday, January 16th, the state's Group Insurance Commission will be holding their monthly meeting, which will focus on plan design choices and decisions for the upcoming fiscal year, which is FY26. FY26 starts on July 1st. So next week's meeting of the GIC is absolutely pivotal in that process, because they're going to start to lay out what your health insurance plans are going to look like. Now, even if you are a local retiree receiving your health insurance from the city or town that you retired from, what happens at the state level is still going to affect you. It might not hit you immediately, but the decisions and the policies put in place by the GIC under state law can very quickly become local policy and local procedure as well. So don't ignore what's going on at the state level. When you see us talk about the GIC, pay close attention, because what can start at the state level can very quickly become a local problem. And that's why we're all in this together. Now, our hope is that the GIC will continue to follow what they have done in recent years, and that is really hold the line when it comes to cost shifting or any dramatic plan design changes that would be detrimental to enrollees and particularly to retirees. I know the GIC leadership has done everything they can to try to avoid those types of policies that would harm retirees. And we're hoping that continues to be the case. The challenge is that healthcare is continuing to get more expensive. And the GIC at their December meeting and in November indicated that they're facing pretty significant premium contribution or premium increases for FY26 that are coming in on average around 10% or so. That's a problem, and something needs to be done about it. And we don't know specifically what the GIC may recommend next week, but we're going to be tuning in Thursday morning, just like all of you, as soon as we get that information. And as a matter of fact, next week's message will focus on the GIC's meeting and the types of things being talked about. But we're very hopeful that they continue to hold the line when it comes to increasing copayments and deductibles in particular. Now, the GIC leadership, just like the leadership of most of the healthcare plans here in Massachusetts, we have a very close working relationship with each other. They know that we have pledged and we will continue to do everything we possibly can to play a leading role in working with them to gain control over healthcare costs here in Massachusetts. But regardless of what we can do in working together, these are going to continue to be very large and complicated problems for all of us to try to resolve. But I know this is getting a little bit lengthy. I'm going to sign off for now, but one last thing. We have our Tewksbury meeting next Friday, January 17th, 11 a.m. The full details are contained in today's email message that went out to Mass Retirees members this morning, as well as in the January edition of The Voice. Now, speaking of The Voice, we'll do a little bit of a postscript here. We are currently producing a special edition of The Voice as a commemoration of repeal of weapon GPO. These issues are too historic, too important for us not to commemorate something in written form that gives proper or thanks to those of you who have worked with us over the years, to give an explanation of how all of this came to be, because there is quite a story to be told here. There's been a lot of moving parts. This didn't happen by accident, but it also happened with a large degree of luck, and we're going to be telling that story in the special edition of The Voice. Our hope is to have it to the printer in about a week or so. That would put it in your hands late January, early February. With that, take care, everybody. Thank you so much for being a member of our association. We'll get back to you real soon. Bye-bye.